To Seoul, Korea, and the second Pan-Asia Conference. We're sitting here in the beautiful Olympic Park, and we have with us today colleagues from the 4 countries that are involved in the Pan-Asia project, and I'd like to introduce them, or let them introduce themselves to you here now. First, we have Naraporn and Chan-ocha from Thailand.
Thank you, Dusty, for inviting me. I'm Naraporn Chan-ocha from ThailandTESOL. I'm pleased to be here today with you all. Okay. Hi.
And next, we have Hoelker from Korea.
Hi, my name is Hoelker, and I'm PAC2 Public Relations Chair and KoreaTESOL Chair, and I'm real happy to be here with my colleagues from different countries in Asia.
And next we have McMurray from Seoul.
Hello, glad you could join us here. We're talking about PAC, and I'm over here from Japan Association for Language Teaching. It's been a real honor to serve as a co-chair of this conference. Thank you.
And to my left here is Johanna Katchen from Taiwan.
Hello, nice to be here today. I'm Johanna Katchen, General Secretary of the English Teachers Association of the Republic of China.
And I am Dusthimer, President of KoreaTESOL and one of the co-chairs of the PAC2 conference. We'd like to start off with a little bit of history about the PAC project, and McMurray, being one of the founders of the PAC project, will give us some of his thoughts about the history.
Well, Dusty, the PAC story, like any recent story, began by opening the cover of a book. And there was Dr. Krappa. She's a professor used to be a professor at Nahidol University, and she's sitting alone in a small study room at her university, and she took a book off the shelf. It was an article. It was called ELT. It was a little bit like this. And she opened up that cover, and she started searching in there for something that she could apply for the classroom. And that was the very start, even though none of us here at the table knew it at that time. And she scanned down and she found an article by a Dr. Carol Browning. And Dr. Browning lived in Hokkaido, which is a very cold part of Japan in the north. So much different from where Dr. Krappa is. And it was an article on learner strategies and learner preferences. And she read it down, and she didn't know of Browning, but she respected the work, and she thought that would be a worthwhile project to try to emulate the study with her students in Thailand. And sure enough, she took the study and she practiced it, and she found slightly different results. All of this had been going on and starting to bubble up and boil up different ideas. And I was sitting at a speech given by Dr. Krappa, and she had a very gentle voice. I'm sure her students enjoyed listening from her. And she had a very calm, demure manner about her, and she started talking, and then she cited some of the references, and one of those references was Dr. Browning. And after her talk, I had the honor to go up and exchange business cards with her, talk to her a little bit, and I said, "Now, have you ever met Carol Browning?" I said, "Oh no, I read about it." I said, "Well, wouldn't that be great if someday you could have a chance to do it?" And I was over in Bangkok attending one of the 13th or 14th conferences, very good conferences held by the Thai Temple at that time. And I thought, well, right there, wouldn't it be a good idea if we invited Dr. Browning to come, maybe speak, or maybe just talk with him? This was before the days of internet that was widely used in Asia. And after that, we started to talk to some of the different members. There was a Chan-ocha in Thailand, and there was a South Berlin in Korea, and we didn't know very much about the English Teachers Association of the Republic of China at that time, but we did know about their conferences that were coming up. And that was the beginning, basically, of how PAC got going. We had to do some official things, like we sat down together, just as we're sitting here today. We signed some agreements. That was our step one. We didn't know each other, and we didn't know how our organizations ran, really, even though it was into a decade of research from Thailand, and JALT had experienced almost its 19th birthday in Korea, and Taiwan, you were just starting off with maybe 2-3 years. But most of us were always looking towards TESOL Incorporated as an international association and looking towards ISFO as another world organization. And even though many of our language associations grew up in the late 60s and the 70s and early 80s, we were always going to nodes. We're looking for our research, our good ideas for teaching English as a foreign language. Therefore, it was about 1994 when we actually got together and we said, well, let's start looking at each other's countries in Asia. Surely there's some similarities that can come out of our classrooms. And that was the core idea, was that between our classrooms that we had, our students were maybe learning the same. Maybe there were some different ideas and efficiencies that could be built from that. And after that stage one of signing the different forms and getting some agreement and talking to respected academics like Donald Freeman, for example, and saying, we think it would be worth the time to invest some energy on finding, is there an Asian methodology? Is there an Asian model of the way that students learn English better? Asian has been talking about 22 different countries. Of course, Thailand, Taiwan, the Korea and Japan, but the Indonesia, the Malaysia, the Vietnam, the Cambodia, the Hong Kong, the Singapore, the Solomon Islands, the Tonga Islands, many, many countries, 22 countries in all. We thought maybe they had similar systems that we should be looking at. We came up with those questions. Are we moving toward an Asian methodology? What is the usefulness, necessity, possibility of an Asian model? And how do students learn best in Asia? We thought that would take us towards our step 2. And that step 2 was very momentous point. And that was to look forward to 1997, when we thought maybe where the PAC was born, perhaps not in the very office where Dr. Kraka was reading her article, but in the country of Thailand, and the beauty of Thailand, and to see if they could start off the PAC conference.
Okay, so that came to us, ThailandTESOL, and we were very proud to be the host of the first Pan-Asian conference in 1997, despite the fact that we were quite worried at that time as well, because it's really a big job, a challenging one. We were trying our best, and we had at the time made a decision on the theme of the conference, and that was the perspective on teaching and learning English in Asia. We think that, since it's the first conference, we should look at what people, especially teachers of English in Asia, think about their job, teaching English to Asian students, what problems they have encountered, and any other solutions so far, and what they are expecting to find in Asian students especially. And it was such a great conference for us, especially when we had the Princess Kalyani Watana, who is the patron of our association, presided over the conference. And that marked a very special occasion, not only for us. Well, in fact, it started at the first Pan-Asian conference. She has been supporting us for quite some time in the past, but from time to time. And then we came to see her and we asked her, we told her that, this is a special occasion, it's a joint cooperation between 3 countries, 3 associations, JALT, KoreaTESOL, and ThailandTESOL, to hold this conference, Pan-Asian conference. And we're expecting quite a large number of teachers of English from all over to come to Thailand for this occasion. And it would mark a very special occasion for us, and it would be a great honor to us, So she accepted the invitation to preside over the conference. And in fact, it's just, at the lunch, hosted by ThailandTESOL, where she joined, and also, all the presidents of the associations, including the presidents of TESOL and TESOL there, that she finally accepted to be the patron of ThailandTESOL officially. Yeah, at that time. At the conference, the first Pan-Asian conference, we had about 1,200 participants from 25 countries, and that's not only from Asia, but from all over. And that was I think the biggest conference we've ever had in terms of ThaiTESOL. And we had about 250 presentations. The topics ranging from the 4 skills, the integrated skill, the skill-based activities, to ESP, business English, learner strategies, and materials development. And the other thing, that we have found that has become very interesting, and a lot of teachers have paid attention to, that is classroom-based research projects. We have quite a few project reports at that time, and I think that was kind of a stimulation to the teachers over in Asia, especially in Thailand. We have had quite a few teachers who are interested in doing the cooperative project, research projects, and a few of them, are coming here to give a presentation at the second Pan-Asian conference. Yeah, so that's, I think that was a great success in terms of, our first Pan-Asian conference.
So what have been like the lasting effects of the PAC project, the first Pan-Asian conference?
One thing that I have already mentioned is the classroom-based research project that we have been trying to promote among teachers, Thai teachers, not only in Bangkok but throughout the country, and especially the teachers from secondary schools. Yeah, and they're very keen. At first, in fact, these teachers, they say that they don't really have time to do the research, even with their own students, with their own colleagues. But by the time, during the last 2 years, from PAC1 to PAC2, they have developed quite a few projects so far, both, locally and internationally. Yeah.
I think Naraporn, you hit on one of the main thrusts of the PAC project, and that is the support of research, ongoing research, research. So
yes.
I think that moving into PAC2, Jane probably has some, can tell us more about what has happened between PAC1 and PAC2, what we might see here at this conference.
Yeah, that's been the exciting part of the... Yes, that's right, Dusty. That's been the really exciting part of being involved in PAC2, is seeing the fruits of our work come to pass. We chose the theme, if you'll recall, very carefully for this conference, Teaching English, Asian Context and Cultures, because we wanted to focus attention and energy on certain questions. And PAC1 began a dialogue among our teachers here in Asia, and we discussed, as David said earlier, that the ESL needs of Asian students are different from the ESL needs of students in the US or the UK studying there. So questions that were asked were things like, how do students learn language from an Asian perspective? How do teachers teach from an Asian perspective? What materials and techniques are culturally relevant in Asia? And also, the point David brought up in one of his writings is that many Asian students do somehow manage to learn the language. They haven't been exposed to the communicative approach. They haven't had face-to-face dialogue with native speakers, and they haven't even traveled abroad. Yet they have managed to successfully learned English language. How have they managed to do that? What is really exciting is that, as Naraporn brought up, many teachers now in Asia are beginning to accept responsibility for investigating classroom. Why do teachers make the decisions of documenting this, and they're sharing it with the community? And only when we do that will the community begin to value our work in the classroom. So it's our responsibility to do this. Past year, since PAC2 was hosted so successfully by ThailandTESOL in Bangkok, January 1997. And what we see here at this conference is an active, varied, and interesting program in response to the questioning and questing that started at PAC2. Our teachers have been very busy. Let me tell you about some of those programs. Tomorrow's program, Friday, starts off with a taste of Asia, be it sushi, kimchi, lemongrass, or sweet and sour. You have your pick. This event highlights the special flavors of Korea, Japan, Thailand, and our friend and supporter from Taiwan from the very beginning, ETA-ROC. We have more than 20 presentations from the country. Some of the titles are Curriculum Changes in Korean Elementary English Education, Primary School English Teacher Training in Taiwan, Motivating Middle School Language Learners in Hong Kong, Homepage Making in Japan. One that I'm especially interested to see is English for International Communication. And actually, we just had a rather lively debate on this very topic at Seoul National University where I teach. Chris Doi, in this presentation, will talk about how to reconcile in practical ways the wide range of real-world uses of English with the traditional perspective of teaching English through conversations and exercises of native speaker and non-native speaker communication. I think I'm looking forward to seeing that very much. Now, another program focused on materials is going to extend this dialogue that was begun at PAC2. This is an informal grassroots organization. Again, Chris Doi has been active in getting this started, and it has three aims. To share materials produced by teachers for Asian learners of English. To provide a forum for issues relating to materials development and research in the context of Asian students. And finally, to establish a network of people who want to collaborate on materials development or research. Now, this is a very exciting venture because they plan to publish a collection of these materials in a book. It will be JALT Material Writers Special Interest Group that is going to be publishing this. And Suchata Nimami, as you know from ThailandTESOL, is doing a short presentation during this part of the program, and she's bringing in some very practical guidelines for teachers, a checklist of how to prepare materials for a class, and actual examples of both published work and non-published work, but work that's been produced by teachers in the classroom. So I think that'll be a fine addition to the program. Focus on Research is a Saturday afternoon program. And what's exciting is that at PAC2, we can already say we have a part of the program dedicated to a report on action research projects going on in Asia. It's going to be kicked off by a colloquium, PAC2 Explorations Through Video. And this colloquium will try to show how video meets special needs in Asia, where we wrestle with various geographic hurdles or financial limitations. Taiwan, I think, is going to make an interesting contribution to this. You have these new communicative textbooks the teachers are being asked to use, but teachers have been traditionally trained, and they're a little apprehensive about using these books. Liam is from a Thai teacher and a Japanese teacher who met at PAC2, began their research project at PAC2. They shared videos of their students chatting with each other about common interest topics such as careers or school life. They then exchanged the videos, and they watched each other's videos, and their students watched each other's videos. And what is the very intriguing twist on this project is that the students describe what they see each other doing in the video. They then share that with their teacher, and the teachers are reporting on what they learned from the students as the students reported what they saw on the video. Third part of the colloquium will be from the Korean students. In 1997, every English education major at Busan National University studied for extended period of time overseas in an English-speaking country. Of course, we experienced the IMF era with their austerity measures, and that opportunity was denied the class of 1998, who were extremely, discouraged, you know. How to motivate these students became a focus. So a video class was designed to provide a genuine language learning and cross-cultural experience for these students. And at a very deep level, examples will be shown of how these students experimented with and explored their personal and cultural territory, and that through these experiences actually partake of the essential offering of an overseas living experience. So examples of students' work will be brought into, and videos will be brought into each of the three sectors of this colloquium. We also have 15 concurrent sessions on action research throughout Asia, listed here in the focus on research. Presenters come from Bangladesh and Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. A few topics are ethnographic field notes from Bangladeshi schools. Let's see, from Singapore, talk is not cheap, a case against journal writing for reflection. And from Taiwan, language learning patterns of Chinese undergraduates. I think that's a very promising program there. In KoreaTESOL, I think I could say, Dusty, that our publications reflect this focused attention on action research. We've seen a real increase in articles in our publications. I don't know about the other countries, but Donald Freeman is a friend of PAC, as you said, has advised us in the past. We were very lucky to have him come as a speaker to our conference in '98. He gave a plenary and a workshop on action research, and that was a real kickoff for us to get our teachers to start thinking about action research. That was funded through the generosity of TESOL Inc., and we'd like to thank them for that. That really helped KoreaTESOL in the middle of our IMF era. Andy Curtis from Hong Kong Polytechnique has published in our text what is it? Tech is
the English connection.
The English connection, right? And we've had a number of book reviews on action research recently. So I don't know if any of you want to comment. Have you seen an increase in articles on action research in your publications?
Yeah, as far as JALT, we put out a special issue on action research. We had an entire 100-page volume. And I'd say about one article a month comes out on explaining either working papers, which is very exciting to see how the action research is moving along, or else completed work and some studies. Some good work on that.
So we're seeing what action research is doing what? It's bringing, or it's allowing teachers to take the responsibility of improving their teaching, improving the environment of their classrooms for their students.
I'm saying what it is the students need.
The teacher themselves looking at their classroom and saying, what's going on in my classroom? Rather than perhaps going to their library and pulling out a volume by a psychologist or one of the other disciplines, the teachers themselves, the language teachers themselves are coming together and saying, this is our glass house, let's try to be masters of our own profession and develop it more as a profession.
One of the main ideas is that research is not only for PhDs or scholars. That everybody can do it and it's valid.
And teachers are claiming their own authority, if you will, or searching for their own voice.
And it includes the concept of reflection. Reflecting on your own teaching in order to better your teaching.
I think that's the most important point, we'd like to point out to our Thai teachers, because, they usually think that research is just for doctoral program, candidates, or for professors with long time experience, not for school teachers. But in fact, it's for them, as one kind of professional development, to reflect on their own teaching, to improve their own teaching. It's a kind of a continuing development.
I've many times talked about research to teachers, and their initial reaction is, research? I can't do research, but this is kind of bringing it to them in a way that they can participate.
We try to reduce the big word research into the small word.
Conclude a bit with the Asian Youth Forum, because I think that's a very exciting program. As you know, Asian Youth Forum is a 4-day event this year, and it's bringing together young learners of English from all over Asia. They're attending intercultural workshops, discussions, seminars, cultural performances. They have home stays with Korean families, tip case of JALT in Japan, and Peggy Woolberg of KoreaTESOL. Here's an example of collaborative work. Together have worked to bring this very successful project about. And I think it's well, maybe this is where we move forward to PAC2 by saying through the Asian Youth Forum, or from our students, I think we will find both our questions for the future and also directions for our future. As Dusty said earlier, describing the site here, it really is a very inspiring site representing peace, harmony among nations. There are sculptures from over 66 artists around the world on the ground, so we have a chance to take a look at them. And perhaps the work that best expresses the spirit of collaboration of PAC2 is one by Armand Mohan entitled Two Beings in Dialogue. So may we continue the dialogue at PAC2.
I've seen that statue.
Yeah, very inspiring.
We're here at PAC2. We're going to have a running event, a marathon tomorrow morning to start things off, to set the tone for the whole weekend, to celebrate youth as kind of a part of the Asia Youth Forum. And when we conclude here, after a successful conference, we're going to move forward to PAC3 in 2001 in Kyushu, Japan. So what do we see happening between 1999 and 2001 in Kyushu? Any ideas, David?
Well, today I put on my marathon t-shirt here. We printed up some special ones to invite all of you to get on the bridge to go from this PAC2 conference and join us over in Japan. We'll be bridging right across the seas there. What we have in store in our sites is to take us all the way to the year 2001. And it'll be our PAC 2001, a Language Odyssey conference. So I'll be doing my best, as will Johanna, Naraporn, and Jane, when we set out tomorrow on our jog, our first step. So much groundwork has been done. The planning, the doing, the checking, and the acting that have come out over this last 4 years are incredible. It's a difficult job, unenviable job that JALT has to fit in after all this work has been done. Because there's been a lot of questions posed, and we'll have had 4 years of research, collaborative programs together, with checking and the acting. The main planning was that first stage. The doing, a conference with 250 presentations, emulated again with another 250 presentations, continually driving this this whole concept of an Asian methodology, perhaps, an Asian model of teaching. It's a little bit of an unenviable position to come in after 4 years, in fact it'll be 6 years, won't it? It's time to start answering some of the questions. And this is when perhaps the world could be watching, because if you think that if there is indeed an Asian methodology, could there not be perhaps one in South America, or could there be other EFL environments that could perhaps look at what we're doing here and apply it to their own? That's the idea of teachers trying to take some mastery of their own programs and be able to share the results. The questions and the main salient points that I think have come through with the research programs, the collaborative work that's being done, the publication, the papers that are coming out. And if I can just listen for you, it's the role English plays in Asia will have to be solved by them. The purpose for learning English, bringing that out. These questions. The role of communicative methodologies in Asia, the similarities between English teachers that are working in Asia, the different classrooms we have, the different professors. How about the students, the other side, the similarities of the students in Asia, the pedagogical similarities in the language classroom, the observation of the move towards an Asian methodology, perhaps, and whether communicative language teaching, like they're working very hard in Taiwan now, would be useful. So what we're hoping is that you'll, once the research becomes remotivated again, the new collaborative projects that come alive will bring us to Kitakyushu in Japan on November 22, 23, 24, 25. It'll be somewhat of a culmination. What we're looking for there is perhaps up to 400 presentations where the collaborative programs, such as Jane explained, where there's maybe 3 or 4 different teachers together at a panel presenting their works, their common types of research. Those are the types of panels that we'll be looking for. The main speakers as well, where you have a plenary speaker in front of 1,000 teachers. We've been experimenting more with having collaborative plenaries. Last year we did a little bit of experimental work with that, and we're hoping that Donald Freeman, who led us off with this back in 1994, that he'll be coming.
And David, on this, you've spoken about publications. You've shown us 2 publications. Is there any, and Dusty and Naraporn, is there any kind of a agreement for a PAC2 journal, a continuing agreement among the organizations?
Well, one is in the works, and the organizations have been meeting and talking and going over the finer points of the nature of that journal. And as Jane mentioned, the economic situation in Asia has caused us to look and relook and rethink, is this viable, can we do it financially? And we're coming to the point as the economy recovers to where we think, yes, the answer is yes, we can come together possibly as products of future PACs, PAC2 particularly being the first one. And I just quite can't finish that.
Can you crank it out? And so we're optimistic.
We have a call for papers though. Can you tell us more about the call for
You
papers?
forgot about that.
Why don't we segue into David, and David can finish where I left off.
In fact, Jane, we have
Yeah.
a call for papers out.
Yeah.
We hope some of your exciting lineup of the researchers would be interested in publishing some of their completed work if it's come to fruition, but especially so if they're still working on it, whether they're struggling, if they found a new avenue, or if they need some additional help, perhaps bring in somebody from Taiwan, for example, if it's a pair from Thailand and Japan, because we have a works in progress section of our PAC journal that's in the works in progress, or it could be simply action research as it's developing. We're looking at that right now, and that would be at least 2 or 3 different articles from the 4 or 5 different countries that are involved in it.
Continue the dialogue, extend the dialogue.
We're going to move from PAC3 in Kyushu in 2001. We're going to cross the seas. We're going to go to Taiwan. And as we all know, Taiwan has just had a series of earthquakes. What is the situation in Taiwan, Johanna?
Well, so far from the reports, over 2,000 people have died, and there's still some people missing. A lot of people are homeless.
So one of the things that we've been talking about here at the PAC2 conference has been how can we assist those suffering in Taiwan, and so we are going to be collecting money from participants in PAC2 so that we can send as relief to Taiwan. I hope that it will be of help, and I hope there's no more earthquakes before PAC4. So now backtrack. So we hope the relief work. So we hope that the money is helpful to everyone who's laughing in Taiwan. Okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah, good ending. Well, thank you, Dusty. I'm sure our colleagues in Taiwan who are in need of assistance will certainly appreciate what you're doing. The ETA, or English Teachers Association of the Republic of China, first became involved with the Pan-Asian series of conferences in 1997, and that was actually at PAC1 in Bangkok in January 1997. And three of us who were working with ETA at that time, Chen Pengxiang, who was the vice president at that time, Liang Yaonam, who was the general secretary at that time, and myself, I was an assistant secretary at that time. The three of us were able to attend the conference. We met members of the PAC Council, and we attended the PAC planning meeting. I believe that was the meeting where the theme for this PAC2 conference was decided.
Indeed, you're right. Yeah.
And another table that had a nice green tablecloth on it. Yes. For the next 2 years, from 1997 through 1999, ETA was involved as a junior partner. So when we could, if we were attending international conferences where there were PAC planning meetings, we would attend and keep up with what was going on and try to be supportive. Then at the most recent ThailandTESOL conference in January 1999, the PAC Council voted to include ETA and asked us if we would be willing to host the PAC4 conference in 2003. Then in March of this year, we brought this idea to the ETA Board of Directors, and they approved the idea of hosting PAC4. And the way these conferences are arranged, these are not separate conferences. These are conferences that are held in conjunction with our own national conferences, they're international conferences that we held every year. So, for example, in ThailandTESOL, they hold their conferences every year in January, whereas JALT and KoreaTESOL and ETA, we hold our conferences in October and November. So when the PAC conference is held, it's in conjunction with what would be an annual conference. So this conference here, PAC2, is in conjunction with what would be a KoreaTESOL conference anyhow. We are going to be following JALT. And the Japan Association for Language Teaching has been in existence for quite some time. They have a lot of experience with hosting international conferences. ETA is 25 years. Well, ETA this year is 8 years old. We still have some growing pains. But as Dusty has reminded us, the KoreaTESOL isn't all that old either. And
only 6 years now.
And they've done a wonderful job planning. And what a difference going from KoreaTESOL conferences a few years ago. I attended my first one, I think, in 1994, when there was water coming through the roof or something or other. I forget. Something went wrong. And now we have this beautiful site, and everything looks so beautifully organized. we're sure that if anything goes wrong, it will be so minor that no one will even notice it.
We're hoping.
Yes. So I hope you continue to inspire us and to give us advice, and I'm sure Naraporn and ThailandTESOL will help us. And JALT.
The key point you're bringing up is that PAC has enabled us to focus and to
Yes.
organize.
Yes.
Not just our conferences, but the way we teach and the whole design of planning and publishing and researching and recording.
I think KoreaTESOL in our particular case has grown as an organization through working with the other organizations in PAC and through trying to organize this conference. So it's really been helpful. And another thing that's been interesting, and it comes out of everything we've been saying, is we're working not only together, but we're working with our colleagues in TESOL Inc., our colleagues in ETA-ROC, and it's all coming together. And it's interesting that it's coming together in Asia.
It's interesting that you bring up the ETA-ROC question before we get back to this one. We're so lucky to have executive officer of ETA-ROC. Tell us a little bit about what ETA-ROC has done, because we've heard a lot of the TESOL side, but ETA-ROC has been such faithful partners to us and helping us and inspiring and sponsorship when it comes to our meetings. Tell us a little more about ETA-ROC.
Yeah. I think during the past few years, ETA-ROC has been very active in terms of, supporting us all, the associations of teachers in Asia. Especially they support the travel of the key speakers and also they themselves, the president, for example, of ETA-ROC. Starting from Madeleine de Vivier, I think, she came to the first Pan-Asian conference, and she also sent her representative to the conference of ours as well. I think ETA-ROC has realized that networking is an important thing, and they not only network within Europe, but they do the networking outside here in Asia, and they think that whatever they can do as contribution to the development of English language teaching in Asia, they are more than willing to help. And one of the main things that they, apart from sponsoring the speaker, for example, they aim at networking. And in terms of networking, it's not only, meeting at conferences. We can meet through email, internet. We can meet through newsletters and doing some other projects together. And they would like to support us more in that terms.
Well, we've come full circle in a sense, or we're mid-circle, I guess you might say. We've had the history of the PAC project. We've had the first Pan-Asia conference, the second Pan-Asia conference. We're looking towards number 3 in Kyushu, and then after that to Taiwan for PAC4. What do you think is going to be the future of PAC? Aside from possibly the conferences, which are in the planning stage already, and PAC is not just a series of conferences. It's evolved into something possibly more than that. What do we see? What development do we see in the future? One thing that I had in mind, that comes to mind first, is a continuation of what's happening here at PAC2, and that is obviously youth are the object of oppression. And we're here at the Olympic Park. We're going to have the run. We're going to have the Asian Youth Forum. I see that kind of project as something that can continue and should continue as a part of the PAC project. What other? And we mentioned also the journal.
And I think generally a focus in the profession, at least here, a direction to the work instead of a scattered approach to professional development and to our profession. The more, well, to a certain limit, the more people or elements you have involved in a project, the more they balance each other out, and the more they bring out the finer points of each organization. So hopefully we're bringing out the finest points of each of our organization. I mean, I certainly look forward to meeting everybody at these conferences and the personal element involved in the work. But it is deeper than that. It affects us as teachers and as professionals too, I think. Reminds us of our goals, our higher goals.
When you mention the publications, I not only think of the PAC journal, but what you have talked earlier about the materials, you know, Asian materials. I mean, you know, the materials for Asian context. I think that fits very well with the situation, especially in Thailand at the moment, that we put an emphasis on the development of the materials by the teachers locally. I mean, they should not concentrate on the commercial books or, you know, the books assigned, the publications, the commercial books assigned by the government or by the central body, but develop their own materials to fit their own context.
And look to the student and the student-generated work.
Right.
To capture the attention and interest.
Yes, and that would be nice, you know, if we can have a kind of a collection of that kind of materials, you know, in Asia.
So again, it's the idea of teachers taking responsibility for their classroom.
Yes.
Development of materials for their own classroom.
Yes.
For their own countries.
Right.
Interesting result as well of the conference here in Thailand, rather, and then the work for the last 2 years is that at the educational materials exhibition that you're going to have here in the Parkdale Hotel, there's an enormous amount of books that are designed now for the Asian market. It's been a real shift in textbook design from a ESL type or an EFL book for the world market. So in the book, when our students in Japan would open up, they would watch what Pedro was doing perhaps in Mexico. Now the focus is more on an Asian-centered text, but it took a little way to get there because after the international text, we all want country-specific. Taiwan had textbooks that were very heavily translated and that were perfect perhaps for the Taiwan market, but there was little lead-in the other areas of Asia. What we're going to find now is an incredible amount of textbooks that are being sold throughout our places. The teachers who either come from overseas, but they've been based in these countries for 20 years, they have fine experience, good research, they're writing their own textbooks. The native people in each of the countries as well are becoming, recognized around the world. So today you have, or rather tomorrow, you're going to have Kenku Yoshida from Japan. He'll be giving ideas that can be shared in other places. That's about what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think, again, touching back to Chris Doy's presentation on English for International Communication, what we see in the textbooks, I think in Korea, is again how to make textbooks that reflect the real world usage of English, not some concept that someone far away developed. So we're getting down to the very real world.
And so here we are on the eve of PAC2. It always amazes me when I go to conferences, international conferences, especially the PAC2 events, that it's the energy that's there. And it's really, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. That this conference will meet everyone's expectations or surpass everyone's expectations, and that the torch can be given to JALT on Sunday afternoon, and the PAC will continue
Burning brightly in the past.
very brightly. And the PAC project will continue and be of benefit to all of our teachers in Asia. Students too.
Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you.
Hey,
Have
okay.
a good conference. And we will
Thank you.